This is the second video in the series on Fluent Czech's spiral method of language learning, and it's the method I use in order for me to be able to remember things and use the language in what I think is a pretty fluent way, so that I can combine things in interesting ways and feel very comfortable with them. And this is probably only useful for people who, like me, aren't very good at just remembering long lists of words and tend to forget things and always find themselves asking why, and they're never happy just to hear, well, because. Okay, so I often hear people say one of the most important things is to get a great big vocabulary in a new language or in any language you're studying, and I agree. But the advice from many people of just create word lists where you have words like dopis equals letter. Immediately, instead of thinking dopis equals letter, I find that my brain is racing with, what does it mean? Does it mean A, B, C, D, or does it mean dear mum, how are you? And also, having the word dopis on its own is a bit distracting to me because I'm immediately thinking, well, how do I use it? Some people say you shouldn't actually just have single words. People need expressions that they can combine. So in Czech, něco se stalo means something happened. But it's got the same problem for me. I keep thinking, ooh, why is it 3 words in Czech and only 2 words in English? And how would I use it? And why does that mean something happened? So these are problems that actually these curiosities that I have are getting in the way of me remembering these things. So here you go. ABC is hello mum, and 3 words, why does it become 2? Well, some people say the problem is that having these words in isolation means that you have unfulfilled questions. The words are sort of just floating out there, and what you need is context, not isolation. So you most probably have seen techniques which are, instead of having words and little expressions like this, only study phrases. So they will create or download from the internet lists of thousands of sentences, almost random sentences, and try to remember them all. So you may get something like, let me move this a bit closer, napsavši dopis plakala, which means, it's a Czech and it means, having written the letter, she cried. Well, my curiosity is, okay, I can see that written the letter probably means it's a letter like the dear mum kind, but now, why on earth does napsavši mean having written? And why is plakala, she cried? Well, it's sort of distracting me from the word dopis, this. And the same here with něco se stalo. Kdysi se cosi komu si stalo. Once upon a time, something happened to somebody. Hold on. My word nietsos disappeared. Why? And does kdysi really mean once upon a time? Can Czech, or maybe it's another word that means that. Either way, it looks in these cases like Czech really only uses a few words, where English uses, oh, I'm doing it again, I'm getting distracted, I'm asking myself all these questions, and that curiosity of mine needs to be stomped out. I've just got to try to remember these things. Well, my brain doesn't work like that. And I've realized that these sentence methods, they are not creating context for me. This is not context, this is noise. This is stuff that's getting in the way of my understanding. It's actually making my confusion greater. And what I want is context, and context is something that should clarify and not confuse me further. So I want to add information to the things I'm learning that clarifies it, that makes me understand it better, and hopefully remember it better. And what I realized is, rather than saying to my curiosity, keep quiet, stop asking why, just accept it, it was very effective for me to follow my confusion, or in other words, curiosity, to find clarity. Because I believe that when my brain is asking why, it's because it wants to know. It's not something to be suppressed. There's a hole in my knowledge which at some point has to be filled, and let it be filled in the order my brain wants it to be. We'll get to some examples of this in this and later videos. But what it means is that I'm going to follow all the points where my brain is saying, but why, but why, but why, and what about this and what about this? And they will lead me naturally to what is appropriate to learn next. And what I've found is that my brain magically, in some way, is helping me answer all those WH questions, who, what, where, when, how, and why, that I described in the first video. And it will only stop asking these questions when it's satisfied it understands something well enough. Otherwise, my brain always has this nagging feeling that I've let go of something too early. So instead of allowing a textbook or a grammar book to tell me, okay, this is what you need to know about this, now drop that and move on to the next thing, I'm allowing myself to tell me what to study next in an order that's natural to me. And so what you end up with is a personalized and ever-evolving grammar. And if you remember, in an earlier video, I described grammar as everything somebody else thinks you need to know about a language apart from words. And this is why people, I believe, hate grammar books, because they don't want to know the stuff that's being taught to them, because it's being taught to them in an order that's not appropriate to them, because they're not curious about those things. But if you follow your natural curiosity when your brain is asking you to, it'll fill all the gaps. And if you keep notes at various times, what you'll end up with is effectively a personalized grammar which contains everything your brain believes that you should know, apart from words, and at the right time. So, what I do is let my ignorance, or in other words, curiosity, tell me what I need to learn next. And I get the grammar books out, get the textbooks out, get the dictionaries out, use Google, and whenever my brain is saying, ooh, what's that about, why, I don't understand, I'll hunt it down. And I take notes, and whenever I find I've got an aha moment, oh, right, oh, that was interesting, oh, so that's what that means, I note it down. And then wait, and then my brain will ask me something else, and I'll note that down. We'll come to some examples. And I stop either when my brain stops asking me questions or I get bored. And at that point, I've got notes and a head full of knowledge relating to an area, and I'll start to play with what I've learned. So I'll take my board like this, and I'll go, oh, so Doppis equals letter. Now, what kind of letter was that? And I speak to myself out loud like this, asking myself questions, and I found this is really helpful. If I articulate the questions my brain's asking me, rather, it stops me from suppressing them. I sort of get them out there. So, what kind of letter is that? Yes, well, it wasn't the ABC kind. No, Doppis means the dear mum kind of letter. So, where would you take that kind of letter? Well, it's to the post office, isn't it? And what was the Czech word for post office? Yeah, that was pošta. But before you take a letter to the post office, it has to be in a container, in an envelope, doesn't it? That's right. So what is the word for envelope in Czech? Well, that was obálka. So where do you take the dopis? To the pošta. And what is the dopis in? It's in an obálka. So when your dopis is in an obálka and you take it to the pošta, what do you need on the obálka? Well, you need an address, which in Czech is what? Adresa. And where will the adresa be? On the obálka. Well, how do you say the address is on the obálka? Well, adresa je na, the address is on, but it's not just going to be adresa je na obálka, is it? Because this is a feminine word, and na means that it's going to be in the sixth case in local, so it'll have to change, but what will it have to change to? Well, Ka ending, I know that always changes to Ce, so what will it be? That's right, it'll be obálce. So the address is on the envelope would be adresa je na obálce. And what else do you need apart from the address on the envelope? That's right, you need a stamp. Well, what's stamp? Znamka, wasn't it? That's right. So how do you say the stamp is on the envelope? Znamka je na obalce. And where would you be with it? In the poczta. That's right. And so you see the idea. What I do is I talk to myself like this and I play around the area I've just learned and ask myself lots of questions. And whenever I can't answer a question, I stop playing and go back and study again because it means my studying wasn't complete enough. And I update these written notes I've got and I play a little bit more. So that's great. I followed my curiosity. But perhaps what I've found to be the most important thing following this curiosity then is I actually have a headphone set with a microphone in it and I record audio of myself talking and answering these questions. And this is important because what you end up with then, if you go back in the video and listen to how I was talking, is actually something quite like, say, a Pimsleur or Michel Thomas course, because I can listen to it and as I hear myself later on, hearing the questions I'm asking myself, I stop the audio and I try and answer them. So I'm going over the play. And you'll notice I was combining things. I asked myself questions. Okay, so the address is on the envelope, is set like this, but how would we say the stamp is on the envelope? And I keep going and going and going. And with each iteration, and I've had thousands of these over the past a couple of years, I guess, you can build on things you've learned from previous iterations, and you end up with effectively your own Michel Thomas or Pimsleur course, but based on your own curiosity, following your own trail and building up the grammar, or your personalized grammar, effectively, the language, and learning the language through this personalized grammar and the words around it. Yes, see what I mean? And by the way, as I'm recording, of course, you can edit with Audacity and take out the ums and ahs or any blank moments or any silly mistakes you make if you want and re-record them. And I listen and I reply to the questions many times, repeating at various intervals until it's really inside me. And in later sessions, I try and build on things I've learned in this one. And then this is important. I then take the notes I've written when I finish the recording, and I write them up in Anki. Instead of having sentences or words in Anki, what I've got is notes and a few words around those notes. So each flashcard in Anki might actually have 100 words on it with an explanation. This context stuff that I've been talking about now will result in, this one would result in, I don't know, 10 Anki cards, each with all of this grammatical stuff I've discovered and all these interesting interconnected things. And the reason for this is, I found that the problem isn't that remembering is hard, and a lot of people try to use Anki by putting in lots of words they don't know or sentences they don't know and trying to remember them. Well, I find that just results in lots of noise and confusion and doesn't help me remember them at all. Instead, I learn things in the method I've described and then put them into Anki, because my biggest problem is that forgetting is easy, not that remembering is hard. So once I know something, I want to stop myself from forgetting it. So I use Anki, not to help me remember, but to stop me from forgetting. Big difference. And then later, if weeks or months down the line I realize I've made some big mistakes here, there's no problem. I just go and update the relevant pages in Anki, and I either create a new audio and just say this is an extension of the previous one, or I can go back in Audacity, this is free software for editing audio, and just edit bits of these audio MP3s. And I end up then with this huge library of audio with all the stuff I've learned in it and a huge deck in Anki that is my own personalized grammar and effectively word lists. And by listening to these using spaced repetition both for the audio and the Anki, I don't forget stuff and I can use it very fluidly. So that's it for now. More to come in later videos.